So the ESRB has come under a lot of scrutiny over the past few years, in large part because they're failing to do their jobs. They're supposed to keep consumers informed about what's going on inside certain video games, but they refuse to label things like loot boxes, gambling. They refuse to admit that games featuring in-game purchases that allows players to purchase items en masse shouldn't be allowed for kids, that they shouldn't be rated for kids. And I've been wondering how everything works behind the scenes with the ESRB. Like, what is the process like? And there's this great video by Angry Joe you should check out. He revealed a lot of this information, or at least made it known. This isn't new information per se, but it's stuff that I didn't know about until now. So I figured I should share my perspective, my take on all of this. So let's begin. The following article comes from this How Stuff Works website, and it is an old article, but it's relevant today, and I'll get to why in a bit. But you can see right here that this article reads, the entertainment software rating board comes under fire on a regular basis, most recently with the hidden hot coffee minigame in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So this is many years back that this article was written, when San Andreas was released, when the hot coffee fiasco was prominently laid out across many news outlets. But even then, the information relayed here is relevant today. So right here, this website sort of details how the ESRB rates games, and it's not a process that's particularly confidence-inspiring. So here's the excerpt in question. A minimum of 3 game raters are responsible for rating each game. These raters receive special training, whatever that means, and their identities are kept hidden to preserve the integrity of the rating process. The ESRB also requires that the raters have no connections to the game industry. So in concept, that seems like a good idea. You know, having raters who have no connection to the games industry avoids any conflict of interest. But given the ESRB's lax take on loot boxes, I have to wonder whether this is actually true, whether whoever rates these games aren't influenced in some way by the games industry, or whether they really have no ties or interest in the games industry. When a publisher plans to release a game, they submit an application to the ESRB. Then they send a video of footage from the actual game, including the most extreme examples of potentially offensive content and overall gameplay. The raters view this footage, they never actually play the game, and assign it an ESRB rating, for example, E for everyone, for a game that is suitable for ages 6 and over. If the raters all agree, the rating becomes official. If they disagree, additional raters view the game footage and try to reach a consensus on the rating. The ESRB also reviews game packaging to make sure it displays the ratings correctly and conforms to ESRB standards. So the main takeaway here is that people who are actually rating our games don't even play the games that they're rating, and I have to wonder how the hell are they supposed to objectively look at a game and determine who it's appropriate for when they aren't feeling out how a game just works. You know, from a mechanical standpoint, from an artistic standpoint, just watching a trailer of a game, some demonstration put together by the game publishers, mind you. So these game publishers get to dictate what goes in that footage and get to present the game in a light that they want. Given all of this, I have to question the integrity of the ESRB and its ability to actually rate our games appropriately. I have to wonder what companies like EA show these folks, you know, these raters. Do they show any of the loot box stuff, and do they show it under a light that's actually accurate? Same with NBA 2K20. I mean, that might explain why a game like NBA 2K20, with its clear visual imagery of an adult activity, gambling, you know, slot machines and the like, why this was rated as E for everyone. Maybe the raters just weren't shown everything. It's either that or they were actually shown exactly what this game entails, but they were somehow influenced to not give this game an appropriate rating, because anyone with an objective mindset, I think, would see that there's something wrong about this right here being seen as appropriate for kids. I said before, I dare game companies to make a trailer like this except with kids reacting instead of adults, and let's see how the world reacts to that. Now, it isn't just this article that highlights what goes on when the ESRB rates a game. The ESRB actually admits all of this in their official website. So in this FAQ segment, you can read all about how they rate games, and it matches with a lot of the information conveyed in this article. So, right here, who decides which rating should be assigned? This excerpt reads, ESRB ratings for physical boxed video games are based on the consensus of at least 3 specially trained raters who collectively assess a game's content and deliberate about what rating should be assigned to a game. I have to wonder what that specially trained means. Specially trained to not view gambling as gambling, perhaps? Some raters are also required to playtest games post-release to ensure that complete and accurate content disclosure was provided to ESRB when it was originally submitted for rating. So note that when raters do play a game, if they're assigned to play a game for rating purposes, they do that after the game has launched, not before. So when boxes list the game as E for everyone, that's based off of the trailer, the presentation, the demo that the raters were shown rather than their own experiences on playing the game itself. This segment continued to eliminate the risk of outside influence, including from industry members and the media. The identities of ESRB raters are kept confidential, and they're not permitted to have any ties to or connections with any individuals or entities in the video game industry. Again, either that's an outright lie, or these raters are just not being shown everything about a game, or are being misled about a game because, again, there's no way someone with no interest in the games industry would legitimately see this as appropriate for kids. There's just no way that there's no influence being enacted there on the games industry's part. Then right here, do ESRB raters play the games they rate? By ESRB's own admittance, ESRB raters do not play through games during the rating process for a variety of reasons. First, many games can have upwards of 50 hours of gameplay, so requiring a minimum of 3 raters to play through hundreds of physical boxed games rated annually would be impractical. So basically, they're saying that it's just too inconvenient for them to do their jobs right. Look, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, so I won't claim to know how easy or difficult it is to rate games nowadays, especially because they are long. A lot of them tend to be long, but I'm sorry, you have to find a way to do it, to do your jobs. Like, that's what you're here for, the ESRB. You're here to rate games appropriately using the right process. And the fact of the matter is that right now your process is fucked. So, whatever your excuse might be, you have to find a way to solve it. And given how much money the games industry makes, I'm sure they can put in the funding and resources to spruce this up a bit, because a rater not playing the product that they're rating is unacceptable. It makes no sense. This segment continues. Additionally, games are player-controlled and enable many different permutations of gameplay depending upon how the player decides to approach a situation. We do, however, playtest many games after release to help ensure all pertinent content was disclosed during the rating process. So I'm not sure how player influence in a game should affect whether something has violence or gambling. We're rating a game's content, what it evokes, what it conveys to the audience. If a game allows you to shoot a gun, that's just universal. It doesn't matter how a player approaches a level. If the game is focused on shooting people, then there's shooting in the game, and the rating would actually take that into consideration. Same thing with something like NBA 2K or FIFA. Those games have the loot boxes. Every player is going to experience that if they delve into this particular mode, the Ultimate Team mode or the My Team mode. They're all going to experience the gambling. So I don't know why this is an excuse for not playing a game in its entirety. Not to mention that a game like FIFA and NBA, you really only have to play those titles, the sports title, a couple hours to gauge sort of what it's all about. Just delve into each of the modes a couple times, and that's it. We're not looking at a 100-hour campaign for these games. And yet, these raters, the ESRB can't be bothered to do its due diligence? It's just, this is just such a bullshit excuse for just not doing their jobs, for being negligent, for not being responsible about their purpose in the industry here. Last but not least, how does the ESRB know companies have fully disclosed all of the content in their game or app, and what happens if they don't? And then the response to that is through a combination of post-release testing and monitoring of public comments, ESRB verifies that all content pertinent to a rating has been reviewed. Should we find that a game or app has been assigned a rating based on incomplete or inaccurate content disclosure, we work to ensure that the rating is promptly corrected wherever it is displayed to consumers, be it a game box, an advertisement, or an online or mobile storefront. For physical boxed games, failure to disclose pertinent content during the rating process may also be addressed with formal sanctions and penalties. So this is laughable right here. Monitoring of public comments, ESRB verifies that all content pertinent to a rating has been reviewed. Yeah, well, the public comments on NBA 2K20 have been pretty clear. Just looking at this trailer, if you scroll down here, you can see that people are not particularly amused by what's being displayed here, the gambling, and a lot of the comments here talk about how this is basically basketball in a casino simulator rather than an actual bona fide basketball game. Furthermore, a lot of people have sent the ESRB emails saying, hey, this is disconcerting, and the ESRB's response was, thank you for reaching to us regarding the rating of NBA 2K20. ESRB assigns age and content ratings based on the final content of a game and the context in which it is presented to the player. No, you don't. You don't even play the game, so you can't really claim this as fact. Content shown in trailers does not factor into our rating assignments. That's hilarious coming from a ratings board that bases its entire rating around presentations and videos that are shown to them by game companies who put these together to appease to the ESRB in a certain way. ESRB stands by our rating assignment for NBA 2K20, which is E for everyone with mild language, users, interact, and in-game purchases. Now, something else that Angry Joe highlighted is this thing right here that I didn't even know about. It's called the Truth in Video Game Rating Act that was introduced back in 2006. It doesn't seem like it ever really went anywhere, but there was an attempt to essentially keep the ESRB more honest. And here is a summary by this article from Gamasutra. It's called Truth in Video Game Rating Act S.3935, and it was proposed by Senator Sam Brownback, who is a Republican senator. And I don't know anything about his other policies, but for this ESRB-focused bill, I agree with a lot of what it says. So it reads right here that the bill would require the ESRB to have access to the full content of and hands-on time with the game it was to rate, rather than simply relying on the video demonstrations submitted by developers and publishers as it currently. Yeah, this is just logic 101. It's common sense 101. The article continued, the hands-on system that the bill proposes might be more akin to the UK's BBFC ratings board's approach, which requires a team of testers to spend at least a day playing through a game. That seems so logical. Yeah, I mean, this is the very first thing that a rater should do. Play the game. It would also prohibit video game producers and distributors from withholding or hiding playable content from a ratings organization. So if a game has gambling, a video game producer could very well hide that or present it in a way that it doesn't look so bad. They cannot be allowed to do that if this bill were to be introduced. So, yeah, but it didn't seem to have taken off. And then right here are a few quotes from the senator, Sam Brownback. He said, the current video game rating system needs improvement because reviewers do not see the full content of games and don't even play the games they're supposed to rate. For video game ratings to be meaningful and worthy of a parent's trust, the game ratings must be more objective and accurate. Could not agree more there. Brownback continued, game reviewers must have access to the entire game for their ratings to accurately reflect a game's content. Again, just common sense. This isn't rocket science. And then it states right here, in order to make game ratings more accountable, the bill would direct the FTC to specifically define parameters for describing game content and what would count as a mischaracterization of a game's content. I know this is, again, from 2006, but this applies so much in this modern day and age when games with loot boxes are just given a tiny itty-bitty label that says in-game purchases, which could encompass everything from perfectly ethical DLCs to nefarious gambling and loot boxes, virtual gambling. And then right here, the article continued, in addition to the new FTC rules, the bill commissions a Government Accountability Office study to determine the efficacy of the industry's ESRB rating system and the potential of an independent rating system that would be controlled by parties with no financial interest in the video game industry. So the reason I question the integrity of the raters in the ESRB who allegedly don't have any connections to the games industry is because the ESRB and its parent organization, the ESA, they're run by the games industry. The chairmen of these organizations are the executives of companies like Take-Two, ZeniMax, Activision, you name it, all of the big, EA, they're the ones running this stuff. So it's impossible for me to believe that the raters who rate the videos that they're shown, the videos made by the game publishers who don't want their games seen a certain way, it's impossible for me to believe that this system isn't messed up somehow. That the raters aren't either being misinformed or that the raters aren't in on it. It's impossible for me to believe that. And so, yeah, a third-party organization with no financial interest in the video game industry, to have that come in and actually rate games, there's a higher chance that they're going to be a lot more objective about all of this, wouldn't you say? Finally, the GAO study would also review the potential advantages of a universal rating system for television, movies, and video games. I'm not sure I agree with that aspect. Video games are just so different from movies due to their interactive nature that I do think it requires its own rating system. But all in all, I mean, what's expressed here is, I think, perfectly sensible. And you can see the bill right here at congress.gov. So this is from 2005 to 2006. The excerpt right here describes everything we talked about. And then this right here is for 2007 to 2008. So it was brought up again, but given that I haven't heard about this bill after this, I can only surmise that this never really went anywhere or that it's still in limbo. Well, I say that maybe it's time for them to reintroduce something like this. Just hold the ESRB accountable. As the ESRB and other ratings boards like PEGI currently stand, they cannot be allowed to go on the way they are right now. Somebody has to step in and set them straight. Because a lot of their actions in regards to loot boxes are completely nonsensical. And they keep trying to emphasize the fact that there are parental tools and all that, but I'll say again, a game that's rated E for everyone shouldn't require parental protection. Parents shouldn't have to come in and secure a kid's time with the game. They shouldn't have to worry about what the kids are engaging in terms of the core content if a game is rated as kids friendly. So this whole parental tool crap they keep trying to shove in our face as if this exonerates them of everything, yeah, forget about it. I mean, just look at this. NBA 2K20. This is a basketball simulation game. No, it's a casino simulation game in which players can select teams from real NBA rosters, compete in tournaments, and play through regular seasons. Players can also manage individual franchises and control the careers of their customized athletes. The words damn and hell are heard in the game. That's the most scrutiny this game's gotten. The words damn and hell are heard in the game. No mention of the egregious machinations of the game's monetization system. All of that just apparently went over their heads for the raters, who have no association with the games industry whatsoever. Apparently nobody outside the games industry saw the casinos and all that as anything worth taking a closer look at. The card packs and the purchasable elements in terms of randomized rewards. Apparently none of that raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Okay, sure. So, there you have it, folks. This is my take on this interesting bit of information. Let me know in the comments below if you already knew about this and what your take is. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.